Hello, and welcome to another fabulous episode of IOA, Inspiring Others to Action. A notebook or a piece of paper to take notes on. The second is to make sure that you have subscribed to our YouTube channel so that you get a notification whenever a new episode of Inspiring Others to Action, IOA, is released. This segment is brought to you by Serve Tennis Rackets. As Matthew 20:26 says, if you want to be great, you must become a servant of all the others. Just like you were designed to serve off the court, we designed our rackets to serve others on the court. Today we have four very special people who we want to celebrate. Things that they've done to inspire others to action. I know that they've personally inspired me. The first person we're going to celebrate is someone from our very own church, Miss Thais. Miss Thais this week decided that she wanted to do something special for her grandma. So she made a card and cut some flowers from their garden and took them over to her grandma just to tell her that she loves her.
The next person we just thought it might be fun to share with you his name is Josh Gad, or you might know him better as Olaf, the snowman from Frozen. But
in summer.
Sounds a little bit better than that. But he's been using his Olaf voice to just do something for kids. So he's been reading some fun stories just for you to listen to. You can find them on Twitter. He does it on Twitter a lot. So you can look up Josh Gad and find his book reading. It's quite fun to hear him even without seeing the snowman.
The third person we want to celebrate is another from Centerpoint Church, but this time it is not a kid. It is Pastor Esther, who brought the message a few weeks ago on Mother's Day. But what we want to celebrate is the special thing she did for Pastor Hannah's birthday a couple weeks ago. She came to our door and delivered a gift, a balloon, and flowers, and it was amazing. Thank you, Pastor Esther.
And last but certainly not least, we have our very own Kayla Keener, who, during this time of quarantine, has been reaching out to a classmate of hers that she was not super close to before all of this, but she decided that she wanted to check in on her and just be a friend during this time. So good job, Kayla.
A fifth option for you to be able to serve right now is to continue to collect money for your BGMC barrels. They are still working towards the goal of serving 10 million meals to people in need during the coronavirus crisis. Right now, you need to pause and go get a Band-Aid. I'll wait. Okay, so now before you put your Band-Aid on, what I want you to do is think of an action that you can do that will inspire others, something kind for someone this week. Maybe a teacher or a grandparent or a friend or a neighbor or someone in your family, but you have to think of something that you can do for someone that is kind, that will inspire others to also do something kind. And when you think of that thing, after you're finished, put the Band-Aid on and don't take it off until you do it. Keep it as a reminder.
Once again, we would like to remind you to hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel because we want you to be able to not miss a single episode of Inspiring Others to Action and our kids' services. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And this next challenge is brought to you by Love Chocolates. For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, John 3:16. You'll love our chocolates, but not as much as God loves you. This game is called What is This Animal?
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Our
Tell me more.
planet has quite a few animals on it, and some of them you may have never even heard of or even seen.
Doubt it, I know every animal.
So I found 6 pictures of some very strange animals, and I'm going to show them. You're going to have to try to guess what they are. I will be showing Pastor Brandon some pictures on my phone of the animals, but you will see them on the screen. You can try to guess too. You might do a better job than Pastor Brandon. Who knows?
That is, of course, a muskrat from the Amazonia.
No.
That is a howling wallopler from the jungles of Africa.
Not even close. The area is close where it's from.
What is it?
It's called an aye.
Aye. That was my next guess. I was just
It's
testing
from-
you to see if you knew.
It's from Madagascar. Next animal.
Oh, that is a wombat warthog.
Absolutely not.
That is a rambling piglet.
Nope.
That is a shimmering hornet hog
Is that really your guess?
from Southeast America.
Nope. Alright, are you ready to hear what it is?
Yes, I am.
This is called a babirusa,
A babber. I pretty much said that.
and it's from Indonesia.
Ah. Aww. That's a cutie pie. That's what it's called.
Not what
I wanna
it's called,
pet
but
it.
it's cute.
It's like an Egyptian feral cat.
Nope.
Egyptian round-eared.
Give you a hint, it's not Egyptian.
It is an African kangaroo dog.
It is from Africa, but it is called a fusa.
A fusa. You a fusa.
You know what that's from?
Ma fusa.
Madagascar. The fusa.
Oh, that is obviously a stinging jelly iguana.
A stinging jelly
A
iguodala.
jelly stingfish iguana dollar.
Nope.
Oh, are you gonna tell me?
I'm trying to remember where it's from. Oh,
It is obviously
I don't
from the
think I'm
coral
saying
reefs
it right.
of Australia.
no, actually it's from Mexico.
Avocados from Mexico.
It's not an avocado. It's called an axolotl,
Axolotl.
and or a Mexican walking fish.
I'd keep one
it's
as a
known
pet.
as a Mexican walking fish.
Oh, that is a rabbit cat mouse. As they say in America.
No.
An anteater rabbit rat. A pointy-nosed rabbit mouse.
Can you guess where it's from?
Oh, Australia.
Yes. It's called a bilby.
A bilby.
It's like a little rabbit.
Another cute one.
Bilby.
That's what they call an ugly blob fish.
No, it's not a blobfish.
Yeah.
Have you seen a blobfish?
That is, a yellow mucus yuck.
No. I'll give you a hint. It's got the same name as a Disney character.
Oh, Olaf,
No.
Anna,
No.
Elsa, Ariel,
It's called a Dumbo
a
octopus.
Dumbo octopus. That was my
It's so cute.
10th. That was gonna be my 10th guess.
So our challenge to you is to try to find an animal that Pastor Brandon has never heard of before and send him a picture of it and see if he can guess what it is.
Yes, which we learned is impossible because I know all animals.
You know all animals.
And preferably either have it cute or really creepy/ugly. Our third segment is brought to you by Image Mirrors. As Genesis 1:27 says, God created human beings in his own image. Our mirrors are there to remind you that you are made in the image of God. This week we are starting a new series where we just did 4 episodes called Fear Busters, where we explored fear of different kinds. And last week we even talked about the fear of death, which might be the scariest fear of all for many. We talked about how God is there and how we can trust in God even when we think about death, and how we don't need to be afraid of it because Jesus died so that we don't have to. But this week we're starting a new series on the book of 1 John, and we're answering the question, what is a Christian? Which, now you can probably guess why we did a challenge called What is this animal? To tie in with our lesson where the question is, what is a Christian? Alright, so with no further ado, we're going to show the first episode, which is an introduction to 1 John. Check it out.
Hey everybody, let's take a look. Near the end of the Bible is a really little book, but it's got a lot of stuff that we can learn. So come on everybody, it's time to turn to the letter we call 1 John.
Hi there, this is Phil. There's all sorts of great stuff in the Bible. That's why it's been the best-selling book in the world for, well, as long as there have been books. And you know, the Bible isn't just a book, it's a collection of books and writings, 66 different works put together.
I know. We learned that in What's in the Bible.
Oh, hi, Emily. That's my friend Emily. She's right. You may have learned that in What's in the Bible.
We did.
I know you did, but they might not have.
They haven't seen What's in the Bible?
I don't know. Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I just don't want to take any chances in case they haven't.
Okay. There's 66 books in the Bible, in case you're wondering.
Well, there. You see? We've already learned something. Can I keep going?
Oh, yeah. Hit it.
Thank you. So today we're starting a trip through one of those 66 books, all the way from beginning to end.
All the way through a whole book? That'll take forever.
It would if it was a big book, like the book of Psalms or Jeremiah, but I'm picking a much shorter book. In fact, it's really a letter, the letter called 1 John.
My great-grandfather was the first John ever.
Oh, hi, Sam. Glad you could come. I don't think your great-grandpa was the first John ever. There have been people named John for thousands of years.
You have no idea how old I am, do you?
Well, I don't think the first John was a turtle.
Okay, that's a good point. All right, carry on.
So the book of 1 John is in the New Testament. It's a letter written, we believe, by the John who was one of Jesus' disciples and also wrote the Gospel of John and the book of Revelation, the very last book of the Bible.
That's the weird one, right?
Yeah, that one's a little unusual. 1 John is called 1 John because it's one of 3 letters in the Bible that we believe were written by John. They're called...
1 John, another John, and yet another John.
No. 1 John, 2 John, and 3 John.
My great-uncle was the second John.
I'm just going to let that one go. So when you sit down to read a book of the Bible, it helps to ask the question, why did the author write this book?
How can we know? We can't ask him. He's not alive, right?
If he was a turtle, he might still be alive. Was he a turtle?
No, he wasn't a turtle, and he's not still alive. To figure out why an author wrote a particular book, we look for clues in the writing, but we also look for clues outside the writing. What was going on, where and when the author lived?
Sounds like a lot of work.
It can be, but fortunately that work has been done for us. Most Bibles have introductions to each book that tell us why we think each book was written. Study Bibles, like this one, have long introductions that are filled with all sorts of interesting information.
So what do they tell us about my great-grandfather?
Your great-grandfather was not the Apostle John. The Apostle John wrote this letter to answer a very simple but very important question. What does it mean to be a Christian? Or to put it another way, what does a Christian life look like?
Well, if you're a Christian, you go to church. You go to potlucks and church picnics and stuff. And you put one of those little fish on your bumper. Those little Christian bumper fish.
I think you're forgetting something.
What? What am I forgetting?
Something about Jesus, right?
Oh, right. And something about Jesus.
To be a Christian is to be a follower of Jesus. You've heard that before, haven't you?
Yeah, I've heard that before. A follower of Jesus.
A follower of Jesus. Right. What's that mean?
This is what John is explaining in 1 John. John focuses on 3 things that you'll see in the life of a follower of Jesus: true teaching, true living, and true loving.
They all start with true. I like that. I have 3 cousins whose names all start with Bernie.
Thank you. True teaching means what we believe to be true, that we have the correct beliefs. True living is how we live our lives according to God's commands, and true loving is how we show love to one another.
Wait, you have to do stuff to be accepted by God?
No, we don't do stuff to be accepted by God. We do some stuff and we don't do other stuff because we have been accepted by God.
What if someone wants to be a Christian, a follower of Jesus, but they don't want to do anything?
Well, the problem with that is that follow is an action word. To follow someone requires taking action. If your friend says, "Follow me," and you say, "Okay," but then you never get up off the couch, are you following them?
Not very effectively.
No, you're not following them at all.
Exactly. Following Jesus isn't just a way of thinking, it's also a way of living. It's not just one decision you make once when you're a kid, it's decisions every single day.
What kind of decisions? How does it work?
Yeah, more detail, please.
That's what we're going to learn about in the book of 1 John, starting next time.
All right, Pastor Hannah, let's review the introduction from 1 John. First question, who wrote 1 John?
John. John, the apostle or disciple of Jesus.
There you go. I was going to say, which John? There's lots of Johns. You know a John? I know lots of Johns. All right, second review question. What other books in the New Testament did John write?
Besides 1 John, he also wrote the book of John, 2 John, 3 John,
There's 4 Johns in the New Testament?
and the Revelation.
Wow. You wrote some pretty important stuff. What are 3 things we see in the life of a follower of Jesus?
True teaching, true living, and true loving.
Do we have to do what God asks to be accepted by Him?
We don't have to do anything to be accepted by him. We do what God asks because he accepted us to begin with.
Fifth review question. Why can't we follow Jesus and stay right where we are?
Well, like he said, follow is an action word. You can't follow if you're not doing something. It requires an action.
Yeah, like you say, follow me all the time and I don't move. I'm not good at following you.
You say you are, but you don't move.
Brandon, can you change Rowan's diaper? I'm coming. And I never come. Not good at following her instructions. Last review question. How do you feel about the idea of following Jesus? Excited, scared, curious, happy that you already are?
I think most of the time it's excited. Sometimes it can be a little scary because God or Jesus will ask you to do things that are uncomfortable. But it is totally worth it.
I'm the same. Normally, though, I feel happy because I know where I'm going after this life. And for me, that makes me really happy. All right, so here's what we're going to quickly discuss. We're going to talk about when we were kids, who did we have to follow, and how was that different than following Jesus or similar than following Jesus? I know for me, it was, as with most kids, my parents, and I followed them to the extent that was pretty much why I followed God. It wasn't that I really understood that well what it was to be a Christian, but kind of like what they said in the video, I thought a Christian was going to church and doing what my parents said and praying the prayer to be saved by Jesus. I didn't really understand that it meant a whole way of living. And so growing up, I followed my parents in faith rather than following Jesus in faith. So I went to church because my parents drove me to church. I read the Bible because my parents told me I should read the Bible. I did certain things because my parents said that those were right things according to the Bible. And how that's different than actually following Jesus is that I didn't really have a friendship with Jesus. Jesus wasn't really my friend. He was just someone that I followed because my parents told me to follow him. And I love my parents, and Jesus was important to them, so he was important to me. But now, that's not the case. Now I follow Jesus and not someone else who's telling me to follow Jesus. How about you?
Well, I mean, I think as kids, there's a lot of people that we have to follow, and even as adults, we have bosses and, people who are still over us. We have teachers and parents and babysitters and all kinds of people that we have to follow, and that's a good thing. But I think that differs from following Jesus because Jesus is the one who willingly gave up his life for us, died on the cross and came back to life. And so I think following him is just, it differs because it just shows him that we appreciate that and we love him so much that we want to be like him and we want to follow him. As a kid, you follow people because you're supposed to, and that's a good thing. But with Jesus, it's a choice. You get to choose to follow Jesus.
Another thing you said earlier is that people aren't perfect. Jesus was.
Everyone makes mistakes.
As we say every week, I'm not perfect. Which is a great segue into our next segment. And if you don't know what that word means, look it up. It's fun. We are going to share some good news. And this segment is brought to you by Good News Megaphones. As Hebrews 10:13 says, how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? We make megaphones that allow you to be heard as you share the good news of salvation through Jesus. And here is why it is good news. We have these little emojis up here. We have a cross, we have a no, we have a home, and we have an angel, which represents heaven. So the cross reminds us that Jesus, after living a perfect life and not deserving to be hurt at all, was willing to be hurt to the point of death on a cross because of his love for us. And because he died on the cross and defeated death, we don't have to be perfect to get into heaven. Instead, if we want our home to be in heaven, Jesus says, just follow me, believe in me, and decide to follow me. And if you want to do that, if you want to follow Jesus, if you want to make a home in heaven, we use 3 letters to help us know how to follow, to make the decision to follow Jesus. So we use the letters A, B, C. A stands for
Admit.
B stands for
Believe.
and C stands for
Choose.
choose. We need to admit 2 things. Admit, I'm not perfect and I need help. The SOS stands for Save Our Ships, which is how ships that are in trouble ask for help. The second thing we do, or there's 2 things we need to believe. First, we need to believe Jesus is King, and second, that he has the power to save us. And then third, we need to choose 2 things. We need to choose to follow Jesus today, and we need to choose to also follow him every day for the rest of our lives. If you want to accept the good news and be saved from death and have a home in heaven and begin a journey, a life of following Jesus, I want you to bow your head with me and pray right now. If you've already made this decision, I want you to say the prayer with me instead of repeating it, because I think that you should, you know it by now. All right, let's see if you can do it. Let's bow our heads and close our eyes. Jesus, I admit that I'm not perfect.
I admit that I'm not perfect.
And I admit that I need help.
And I admit that I need help.
I believe you are the King.
I believe you are the King.
And I believe that you have the power to save me.
And I believe you have the power to save me.
I choose to follow you, Jesus.
To follow you, Jesus.
Today
Today
and every day
and every day
for the rest of my life.
for the rest of my life.
So let it be.
So let it be. Amen.
Amen. If you just prayed that prayer for the first time, we want you to pause right now and tell someone you know who is a Christian. It could be your parents, it could be a grandparent, it could be an aunt or an uncle, or just someone you know. But find someone who's a Christian that would love to celebrate with you right now, and let them know that you just made a decision to accept the good news and follow Jesus, because it's something that deserves to be celebrated. Also, get a bowl of ice cream or a piece of cake or a cookie.
If you have it.
All right, guys, that is it for this week of IOA, Inspiring Others to Action. We had a great time with you, and we hope to see you again soon.